Imagine pouring 13 years into a company building it from nothing, only to be fired by an arrogant kid who thinks he's king. I'm Maya Kendrick, and that's my story. When Brandon Hargrove took over and tossed me out, he didn't know I held the key to a multi-million-dollar deal. Now he's crumbling and I'm rising. This is a tale of betrayal, resilience, and revenge, quiet, calculated, and oh so sweet. Buckle up, the corporate game's about to get brutal. My name is Maya Kendrick, and for 13 years I poured my soul into a company that wasn't even mine. I built the client services department from a ragtag group of 5 overworked reps into a powerhouse of 60 managing accounts that brought in tens of millions annually. I wasn't just good at my job, I was the job. Every handshake, every late-night contract revision, every crisis averted with a client threatening to walk away, it had my fingerprints on it. I wasn't the founder, but I was the backbone, or so I thought. That illusion shattered on a Tuesday morning in late February when Brandon Hargrove summoned me to the executive floor. I'd known Brandon since he was a snotty teenager trailing his father Richard around the office during summer breaks. Back then, he'd been a minor annoyance, loud, entitled, and utterly uninterested in the business his father had spent decades building. Richard Hargrove founded Hargrove & Associates in the 80s, turning it from a small consultancy into a titan of corporate strategy. I'd joined just as it was hitting its stride, and Richard had been my mentor, my champion. He'd promised me a future here, stability, respect. But Richard was gone now. Cancer took him 6 months ago, and Brandon, at the ripe age of 28, had inherited the throne. No one expected him to take over so soon, least of all me. I figured he'd coast on his father's legacy, maybe hire someone competent to run things while he played golf or crashed his third Porsche. I was wrong. The elevator ride to the top floor felt longer than usual. I smoothed my blazer, checked my reflection in the mirrored walls. At 42, I still looked sharp dark hair pulled into a sleek bun, a tailored suit that screamed authority. I'd earned every inch of that confidence. When the doors slid open, Brandon's assistant, a nervous kid named Tim, waved me toward the corner office, the one that used to be Richard's. "Morning, Maya," Tim mumbled, avoiding my eyes. That should have been my first clue. I stepped inside, and there he was, Brandon, slouched in his father's leather chair, feet propped on the desk like he owned the place, which technically he did. He didn't look up from his phone as I approached, just kept scrolling, his thumb flicking lazily across the screen. A half-empty energy drink sat beside a stack of unopened folders. My folders, I realized, the quarterly reports I'd submitted last week. "Brandon," I said, keeping my tone professional but firm. "You wanted to see me?" He finally glanced up, his blue eyes cold and disinterested. He had his father's jawline, but none of his warmth. "Yeah, Maya, sit." I didn't like his tone, but I sat anyway, crossing my legs and folding my hands in my lap. I'd dealt with worse than Brandon over the years, CEOs with egos the size of skyscrapers, clients who thought screaming made them right. I could handle a spoiled kid playing boss. He tossed his phone onto the desk and leaned back, lacing his fingers behind his head. "So, here's the deal. I'm making some changes, fresh blood, new direction, all that. You've been here a while, right? Like forever?" 13 years, I said evenly. I built client services from the ground up. "Yeah, sure, impressive resume stuff." He smirked and my stomach tightened. "But I'm thinking it's time for a clean slate. You're out." The words hit me like a slap, but I didn't flinch, not yet. "Out?" I repeated, keeping my voice steady. "You're firing me? Terminating your employment, yeah, effective immediately?" He shrugged like he'd just canceled a lunch order. "Nothing personal, I just don't see you fitting into my vision." "Your vision?" I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice now. "Brandon, I've closed every major deal this company has landed in the last decade. The Larson account alone, $20 million a year, exists because I spent 6 months negotiating it. You wouldn't have a company to play with if it weren't for me." He laughed, actually laughed. "Come on, Maya, don't be dramatic. You're good, I'll give you that. But I've got people lined up younger, hungrier. They'll do it my way. You're, 40-something? Time to step aside?" I stared at him, the room shrinking around me. 13 years, thousands of hours, missed birthdays, canceled vacations, all for this company, for Richard, and now this brat, who'd never worked a day in his life, was tossing me out like garbage. I wanted to lunge across the desk, grab his stupid energy drink, and dump it over his head, but I didn't. I stood, smoothing my skirt, and looked him dead in the eye. "You're making a mistake," I said quietly. "A big one." "Doubt it." He picked up his phone again, already dismissing me. "HR's got your severance stuff. Tim'll walk you out." And that was it. 13 years ended in under 5 minutes. Tim hovered by the door, clutching a manila envelope with my name on it. I took it without a word, my heels clicking on the hardwood as I left the office I'd practically lived in. The elevator ride down was silent, save for Tim's awkward shuffling. When we hit the lobby, he muttered something about wishing me luck. I didn't respond. I walked out into the gray morning, the envelope heavy in my hand, and stood on the sidewalk as the reality sank in. I was done. Or so Brandon thought. What he didn't know, what no one seemed to remember, was a little clause buried in the Larson contract, the one I'd fought tooth and nail to secure 4 years ago. It was a multi-million-dollar deal, the kind that kept Hargrove and Associates in the black even during lean years. And in that contract, tucked into page 17, paragraph 3, was a line I'd insisted on. All negotiations, renewals, and amendments had to go through me, not the company, not the CEO. Me, Maya Kendrick by name. It had been a power move back then, a way to protect my position after a rival firm tried to poach me. Richard had signed off on it, amused by my foresight. "You're a shark, Maya," he'd said, grinning. "I like that." The clause was ironclad, vetted by our lawyers and theirs, and Brandon, in his infinite arrogance, had no idea it existed. As I stood there, the wind cutting through my blazer, I felt the first spark of something dangerous. Not anger, not yet. Resolve. He thought he could erase me? Fine. I'd let him try. But I wasn't walking away, not from the company I had built, not from the power I'd earned. If Brandon wanted to play CEO, I'd let him, right up until the moment he realized he'd screwed himself. I hailed a cab, slid into the back seat, and opened the envelope. Severance, 6 months' pay, a pittance compared to what I was worth. I crumpled the letter and tossed it onto the seat beside me. The driver glanced back. "Where to, lady?" "Home," I said, staring out the window as the city blurred past. "For now." The cab dropped me off in front of my brownstone just as the sky opened up, a cold drizzle soaking through my blazer before I could fumble my keys into the lock. Inside, the silence hit me harder than I expected. No emails pinging, no phone buzzing with client emergencies, just the faint hum of the fridge and the drip of water from my coat onto the hardwood. I kicked off my heels, dropped the crumpled severance letter on the counter, and poured myself a glass of bourbon. It was barely noon, but I didn't care. I needed to think. I sat at my kitchen table, the bourbon warming my throat, and pulled out my laptop. First things first, I logged into my personal email, half expecting a smug follow-up from Brandon or some canned HR apology. Nothing. Good. That meant they were still oblivious. I opened a folder labeled Larson Deal 2021 and scrolled until I found it, the contract, page 17, paragraph 3. There it was, in black and white. All negotiations, renewals, and amendments to this agreement shall be conducted exclusively by Maya Kendrick, Senior VP of Client Services, Hargrove and Associates, or her designated proxy, as approved by Larson Enterprises. I leaned back, a slow smile tugging at my lips. Brandon hadn't just fired me, he'd cut off his own lifeline. The Larson account wasn't just big, it was the company's golden goose. $20 million a year, renewable every 3 years, with the next renewal due in 4 months. Without me, they couldn't touch it, not legally. And Larson Enterprises wasn't known for bending rules. They'd walk away straight to a competitor before they'd deal with some rookie Brandon shoved in my place. But I wasn't ready to tip my hand, not yet. Revenge isn't loud, it's patient. I needed to know what Brandon was planning, how deep he'd dig his own grave before I stepped in. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in months, Lila Chen, my old assistant. She'd left Hargrove 2 years ago for a competitor, but we'd stayed close. If anyone could get me intel, it was her. She answered on the second ring. Maya? Holy crap, it's been forever. You okay? Hey, Lila. I kept my tone light, casual. I'm fine, just taking a breather. You still plugged into the gossip mill? She laughed, sharp and knowing. Always. Why? What's up? Brandon Hargrove, I said, swirling the bourbon in my glass. He's running the show now. I'm curious what people are saying. There was a pause, then a low whistle. Oh, girl, you don't know? He fired you, didn't he? Word traveled fast. Yeah, this morning, clean slate, his words. What an idiot, she said, and I could hear the grin in her voice. Okay, here's the tea. Word's already out. Brandon's been bragging to anyone who will listen that he's streamlining Hargrove. He's got some hotshot consultant, this guy named Derek Voss, whispering in his ear. Voss is pushing a total overhaul, new team, new strategy. They're calling it Hargrove 2.0. Sounds like a bad startup pitch, right? Derek Voss, I repeated, filing the name away. Never heard of him. You wouldn't. He's a nobody, some MBA grad with a slick haircut and a LinkedIn profile full of buzzwords. Brandon's obsessed, though. Thinks Voss is his ticket to outshining his dad. I snorted. Good luck with that. What about the staff? Anyone jumping ship? Not yet, but they're nervous. Your team's freaking out. Half of them think they're next. Brandon's already brought in a couple of his frat buddies to advise. It's a clown show. Thanks, Lila. Keep your ear to the ground for me, will you? Always. You sure you're okay, though? You sound calm, too calm. I smiled into the phone. I'm good, just figuring out my next move. While we hung up and I sat there, the pieces clicking into place. Brandon wasn't just arrogant, he was reckless, bringing in outsiders, alienating the staff, betting everything on some untested consultant. He was handing me ammunition. But I needed more. I needed to know how he'd handle the Larson renewal or if he even knew it was coming. I spent the next few hours digging. I still had access to the company's cloud drive. HR hadn't locked me out yet, a sloppy oversight I'd thank them for later. I downloaded every file I could, client lists, financials, meeting notes. Then I wiped my tracks, logging out and clearing my browser. Paranoid? Maybe. Smart? Definitely. By evening, the bourbon was gone and my plan was taking shape. Step 1, let Brandon flounder. He'd figure out the Larson clause. Eventually, probably when their legal team laughed in his face, but by then the damage would be done. Step 2, position myself. I wasn't going back to Hargrove, not as an employee, but I could take what I'd built and make it mine. Step 3, watch him burn. The next morning, I got a call that threw a wrench in my quiet plotting. It was Ellen Larson, of Larson Enterprises herself. I hadn't spoken to her in months. She usually dealt with me through her VP, but her voice was clipped, urgent. Maya, what the hell's going on? I just got a meeting request from some kid named Brandon Hargrove. Says he's taking over your role. Is this a joke? I leaned against my counter, heart pounding, but voice steady. No joke, Ellen. He fired me yesterday. Didn't waste any timing, did he? Fired you? She sounded incredulous. After everything you've done, what's he thinking? He's not. He's 28 and thinks he's Steve Jobs. You'll see. She sighed, long and exasperated. Well, he's not you. Our contract's clear. You're our point person. I'm not negotiating with a child. What are you doing now? Figuring that out, I said carefully. Why? Because if you're free, I want you on this, not Hargrove, you. I froze, the implications sinking in. Ellen wasn't just pissed, she was offering me an opening, a big one. Let me think it over, I said, buying time. I'll call you back. Make it quick, she said. This deal's too big to screw around with. I hung up, my mind racing. Ellen didn't care about Hargrove, she cared about results, and I could deliver. But going rogue meant burning bridges, risking everything I'd built under their roof. Or it meant taking it all for myself. That night I drafted an email. Not to Ellen, to Derek Voss, the consultant. I found his address on a cached company page Brandon hadn't bothered to update. Short, sweet, professional. Mr. Voss, I'd love to discuss your vision for Hargrove 2.0. I've got insights from 13 years in the trenches. Coffee tomorrow? Maya Kendrick. I hit send, then poured another bourbon. Brandon thought he'd erased me. Voss thought he was in control. They were both wrong. The game was just beginning. The next morning, I woke up to a reply from Derek Voss. It was curt, dripping with the kind of faux confidence I'd seen in 100 mid-tier execs over the years. Maya, interesting offer. I'm intrigued. 10 a.m. Blue Bean Calf on 5th. Don't be late. DV. I smirked at the screen. He thought he was setting the tone, calling the shots. Fine. I'd let him believe that for now. I dressed carefully. A charcoal blazer, crisp white blouse, slim trousers. Professional but not desperate. My hair stayed in its usual bun, a quiet signal that I wasn't here to impress, just to talk. I grabbed my bag, slipped the Larson contract into it just in case, and headed out. The drizzle from yesterday had turned into a full-on downpour, but I didn't mind. The rain matched my mood, steady, relentless. Blue Bean Calf was one of those trendy spots downtown, all exposed brick and overpriced lattes. I spotted Voss immediately. He was hard to miss. Early 30s, gelled hair, a navy suit that screamed, "I spent too much on this." He was scrolling on a tablet, a half-drunk espresso in front of him. I slid into the seat across from him without waiting for an invite. "Derek," I said, offering a small smile. "Thanks for meeting me." He looked up, sizing me up with a flicker of surprise, like he hadn't expected me to be so composed. Maya Kendrick, the legend herself. His tone was light, but his eyes were sharp. "Gotta say, I didn't think I'd hear from you so soon. Word is, you're out at Hargrove." "Word travels fast," I replied, leaning back in my chair. "Brandon's efficient when he wants to be." He chuckled, tapping his tablet off. "Kid's got big plans. I'm helping him execute, streamline the operation, cut the fat. No offense?" "None taken." I kept my voice neutral, even as my pulse ticked up. 13 years is a long run. I get it, new blood, new vision. So what's yours? What's Hargrove 2.0 look like? He leaned forward, clearly eager to talk. Disruption, total pivot. Hargrove's been coasting all old school deals too long, big clients sure, but no innovation. We're going lean, agile, digital first strategy, younger team. Brandon's all in. Sounds ambitious, I said, nodding. Risky though. Those old school deals like Larson keep the lights on. 20 million a year's not pocket change. His smile faltered just for a second. Larson's locked in, right? Brandon said it's a done deal. Did he? I tilted my head, letting the question hang. Interesting. Voss shifted in his seat, and I knew I'd hit a nerve. He didn't know about the clause. Neither did Brandon, apparently. Perfect. I pressed on, keeping my tone casual. "Look, Derek, I'm not here to stir the pot. I just thought you might want a heads up. I built that department, every process, every relationship. If Brandon's tearing it down, you'll need to know where the bodies are buried, metaphorically speaking." He studied me, eyes narrowing. "Why help us? You're out. What's in it for you?" "Curiosity," I lied smoothly. "And maybe a consulting gig down the line. I'm not ready to retire." He smirked, relaxing a bit. "Fair enough, I'll bite. What's the one thing Brandon's screwing up most?" I paused, like I was thinking it over, then leaned in. "He's underestimating loyalty. The staff, the clients, they don't trust him. You can't buy that with a new logo and a buzzword. Take Larson, for example. They're old school, yeah, but they're picky. They'll bolt if they don't like who's across the table." "Noted," he said, scribbling something on his tablet. "Anything else?" "Just one." I slid a business card across the table, my old Hargrove one with my personal cell scribbled on the back. "If he crashes and burns, call me. I'm good at cleaning up messes." He pocketed the card with a grin. "You're a shark, Kendrick. I like it." We wrapped up shortly after small talk about the weather, his MBA from Wharton. I left the calf with a steady buzz in my veins. Voss wasn't dumb, but he was cocky. He'd relay my warnings to Brandon, probably with a laugh, and they'd keep barreling forward right into the wall I'd built. Back home, I called Ellen Larson. No more stalling. "Ellen, it's Maya. I've thought it over." "Good," she said, her voice brisk. "What's your play?" I'm out of Hargrove for good. Brandon's got no clue what he's doing, and I'm not sticking around to watch it implode. But I can handle your renewal off the books, independent, same terms, same results. She was quiet for the beat, then, you're freelancing now? Something like that, you'd be my first client. I like it, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Screw Hargrove, let's do it. I'll have legal draft something confidential, of course. Brandon tries to meddle. We'll bury him in red tape. Appreciate it, Ellen. I'll send you my proposal by end of day. Make it tight, she said. And Maya, don't go soft on me. Never, I promised, hanging up. The proposal took me 3 hours, detailed, airtight, with a fee that made my old salary look modest. I wasn't just negotiating Larson's renewal, I was setting up my own game. If Brandon couldn't touch the deal, he'd lose it, and if he lost it, Hargrove would bleed fast. That night my phone buzzed with a text from Lila. Heads up, Maya, Brandon's meeting Larson tomorrow. Voss set it up, he's pitching himself as your replacement. Staff's in chaos, 2 reps quit today. I stared at the screen, a laugh bubbling up. He was moving faster than I had thought and digging deeper. Tomorrow he'd walk into that meeting blind, no contract in hand, no clue about the clause. Ellen would eat him alive. I texted back, thanks, Lila. Keep me posted. Drinks on me soon. Then I poured a glass of wine and sat by my window, watching the rain streak the glass. Brandon thought he'd won. Voss thought he was a genius. They were both wrong. Tomorrow, the first domino would fall. And I'd be there quietly, picking up the pieces. The next day, I didn't go to the Larson meeting. I didn't need to. Ellen texted me at 11:15 a.m. Kid's a disaster, arrogant, unprepared, told him to get lost. Contract's yours, sending papers now. I grinned, sipping my coffee. Brandon had just lost $20 million and didn't even know it yet. But he would soon. That afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered, curious. Maya? It was Tim, Brandon's assistant, his voice shaky. Don't tell anyone I called, okay? But Brandon's freaking out. Larson pulled out. He's blaming Voss. Voss is blaming you. What's happening? Tim? I said, keeping my tone gentle. I'm not there anymore. Brandon made his choice. Yeah, but he's asking for the Larson contract, said it's missing from the files. Did you... Tim, I cut in, sharper now. I didn't take anything. Check the cloud drive. It's all there. He just needs to look. Right. Sorry, I don't know what to do. Hang in there, I said, or don't, your call. I hung up, my mind racing. The contract wasn't missing. I'd left it in the system, buried in a subfolder Brandon would never find without me. He'd flail, he'd yell, and he'd realize too late that he'd fired the one person who could save him. The game was on, and I was winning. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. I'd expected Brandon to call, scream, maybe even beg once he realized what he'd lost with Larson, but nothing came. No furious voicemails, no desperate emails, just silence. It unnerved me more than I'd admit. Silence from a guy like Brandon didn't mean surrender. It meant he was scrambling, plotting, trying to claw his way out of the hole he'd dug. I'd seen it before with cornered execs. Panic made them dangerous. I kept busy, though. Ellen's legal team sent over the freelance contract that afternoon, a sleek 10-page document locking me in as Larson's exclusive negotiator. I signed it, scanned it, and sent it back within the hour. By evening, I had a check for my first retainer, 6 figures, wired straight to my account. It wasn't just money, it was proof I wasn't out, I was ahead, but I couldn't shake the itch to know what was happening at Hargrove. Lila's text had been the last real update, and Tim's shaky call only told me half the story. I needed eyes inside, so I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Sam Carter, one of my original hires in client services. He'd been with me since the early days, a steady, no-nonsense guy who'd stuck around through every restructure. If anyone was still loyal, it was him. He picked up on the third ring, his voice gruff but warm. Maya, damn, it's good to hear from you. You okay? Hey, Sam. I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. How about you? Still holding down the fort? He snorted. Barely. Place is a madhouse since you left. What's up? You fishing for gossip? Something like that, I said, keeping it light. Just curious how Brandon's handling the Larson mess. Sam let out a low whistle. Mess doesn't cover it. Kid's losing his mind in. Larson walked, and he's been tearing through the office like a tornado. Fired 2 more reps yesterday, said they dropped the ball. Voss is running around trying to spin it, but the numbers don't lie. We're bleeding cash. I leaned against my kitchen counter, a thrill running through me. He find the contract yet? Nope. Keeps yelling about it being lost. It's combing the system, but they're clueless. You hit it good, didn't you? I laughed, soft and sharp. I didn't hide anything, Sam. It's right where I left it. They're just too dumb to look. Classic, he said, chuckling. But here's the kicker: Brandon's pitching a new deal to Larson. Some half-baked discount plan to win them back. Voss wrote it up overnight. They're meeting again tomorrow. My stomach tightened. Tomorrow? He's got no leverage. Ellen won't bite. That's what I told him, Sam said. He didn't listen. Thinks he can charm his way through it. Kid's delusional. Thanks, Sam. Keep me posted, will you? And watch your back. He's swinging wild. Always do, he said. Take care, Maya. We miss you. I hung up, my mind spinning. Brandon wasn't just flailing, he was doubling down. A discount deal? That was suicide. Larson didn't care about price, they cared about trust. And trust was something I'd spent years earning, something Brandon couldn't buy with a PowerPoint and a handshake. He was about to crash harder than I'd planned. The next morning, I got a text from Ellen. Brandon's back, 10 a.m., same crap, worse suit. You in? I grinned and replied, wouldn't miss it. Call me after. I wasn't going to the meeting, didn't need to, but I'd be damned if I missed the fallout. At 11:30, my phone rang. Ellen's name flashed on the screen. Well, I answered, barely hiding my anticipation. She laughed, a rare sound from her. Disaster doesn't even start to describe it. He waltzed in with Voss, some shiny pitch about cost efficiency and partnership. Offered a 10% cut on the renewal. 10%, like I'm running a clearance sale. What'd you say? Told him he's got no authority to negotiate, pulled out the contract year clause, page 17. His face went white. Voss tried to backpedal, said they'd work around it. I shut it down, told them to stop wasting my time. I could picture it, Brandon's smug grin melting, Voss stammering. How'd he take it? Stormed out, yelled something about lawyers on his way, kids unhinged. Good, I said, my voice steady. Let him try, he's got nothing. Damn right, Ellen said. Your deal's locked, papers are filed, he's done. We hung up and I sat there, the weight of it sinking in. Brandon wasn't just losing Larson, he was losing everything tied to it. The account was Hargrove's anchor. Without it, the smaller clients would spook, the board would panic, and the whole house of cards would collapse. All because he'd fired me without a second thought. But I wasn't done, not yet. He'd feel this and I'd make sure it stung. That afternoon, I got an unexpected email from Voss. Subject, we need to talk. The body was short. Maya, things are moving fast. Brandon's off the rails. Can we meet? Same place, 3 p.m.? I stared at it, a mix of surprise and suspicion curling in my gut. Voss was jumping ship, or at least sniffing around for a lifeboat. Interesting. I typed back the see you there. At 3 p.m., I walked into Blue Bean again. Voss was already there, looking less polished, this time tie loose, hair mussed, a double espresso in hand. He stood when he saw me, a nervous edge to his smile. Maya, he said, gesturing to the seat. Thanks for coming. Derek. I sat, folding my hands on the table. You look stressed. Rough day? He laughed, a brittle sound. You could say that. Larson tanked. Brandon's a mess, blaming me, the staff, you. He's threatening to sue them. Says they breached contract. It's insane. He won't win, I said flatly. He doesn't have a leg to stand on. I know. Voss rubbed his face, exhaustion creeping through. I told him that. He's not listening. Look, I didn't sign up for this. I'm supposed to fix things, not watch them burn. I tilted my head, studying him. So, why am I here? He hesitated, then leaned in. I want out. Brandon's toxic. He's tanking Hargrove, and I'm not going down with him. You've got Larson. You're winning. I want in. In? I raised an eyebrow. With me? Yeah, you're starting something, right? Freelance, whatever. I've got skills, strategy, connections. We could build it together. Screw Brandon. I almost laughed. 2 days ago, he'd been Brandon's golden boy, preaching Hargrove 2.0. Now he was begging for a lifeline. Pathetic, but useful. I'll think about it, I said, keeping my tone cool. Send me a pitch, what you bring, what you want. No promises. Done, he said, relief flashing across his face. You won't regret it. I stood, smoothing my blazer. We'll see. As I walked out, the rain had stopped, the sky clearing to a sharp, cold blue. Voss was a wild card, slimy, opportunistic, but he could be a tool. If I played this right, I wouldn't just take Larson. I'd take Hargrove's whole client list, piece by piece, and leave Brandon with nothing but his father's empty chair. The game wasn't over, it was just getting good. The next morning, I woke to an email from Voss, a pitch as promised. It was polished, concise, dripping with the kind of jargon he probably thought I'd eat up. Synergy, disruptive growth, and strategic alignment. He outlined his skills, client acquisition, digital pivots, crisis management, and dangled a list of mid-tier contacts he claimed he could bring to the table. At the end, he wrote, Brandon's sinking, I can help you rise, 50-50 split. Greedy little weasel. I smirked and closed the laptop. I'd deal with him later. For now, I had bigger fish to fry. Larson was mine, but Hargrove still had a dozen other accounts I'd nurtured over the years. Smaller, sure, but collectively worth another $15 million annually. If Brandon lost those two, the company wouldn't just stumble, it'd collapse. And I knew exactly how to make that happen. I pulled up my old client list, cross-referencing it with the files I'd downloaded before HR locked me out. 3 names stood out: Pinnacle Tech, a software firm worth $4 million a year, Grayson Retail, a chain pulling in sick, and Meridian Logistics, a scrappy outfit at 3. All 3 had one thing in common: they'd stuck with Hargrove because of me. Late-night calls, custom solutions, personal assurances. I had been their rock. Brandon didn't know their names, let alone their needs. Time to remind them who really mattered. I started with Pinnacle. Their CEO, Greg Torres, was a gruff ex-engineer who hated suits and loved results. We'd bonded over bourbon at a conference years ago, and I'd saved his ass when a botched rollout nearly tanked his biggest product launch. I dialed his cell, hoping he hadn't changed it. Maya? His voice boomed through the line, surprised but pleased. Where the hell you been? Heard you got the axe. Hey, Greg. Yeah, Brandon decided I'm too old school for his shiny new toy. I'm out. He laughed loud and rough. Kid's an idiot. What's he doing now? I got some punk emailing to me about streamlining our partnership. Sounds like bullshit? It is, I said, matching his bluntness. He's flailing, lost Larson already, 20 million gone. He's got no clue what he's doing with you either. Larson's out? Greg whistled. That's a bloodbath. What's your play? Independent now. Took Larson with me. I'm reaching out to people I trust. You're top of the list. If you're happy with Hargrove, fine. But if you're not, I can do better. Same service, no chaos. He was quiet for a beat, then, you've got my ear. Send me something, terms, numbers. I'm not sticking around for a clown show. Done, I said. Yeah, you'll have it by noon. We hung up and I got to work. Pinnacle's proposal was easy, same rates, tighter timelines, personal oversight. I sent it off, then moved to Grayson Retail. Their VP, Sarah Klein, was tougher, sharp, skeptical, all about the bottom line. She didn't pick up, so I left a voicemail. Short, direct, hinting at Hargrove's instability without spilling too much. Meridian's COO, Jamal Hayes, answered right away and agreed to a call tomorrow. 3 seeds planted. Now, I'd wait. By mid-afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from Lila. Maya, heads up. Brandon's calling an emergency board meeting tonight. Larson fallout's hitting hard. Rumor is he's begging for cash to cover it. I stared at the screen, a slow burn of satisfaction spreading through me. He was desperate, good. The board's 6 gray-haired relics who'd worshipped Richard wouldn't take kindly to a 28-year-old torching their cash cow. They'd prop him up for now, but the leash would tighten. Then at 4 p.m., my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Frowning, I checked the peephole and froze. Brandon Hargrove stood on my stoop, rain-soaked and wild-eyed, his tie askew. What the hell? I opened the door, keeping my expression blank. Brandon, this is a surprise. Maya, he said, his voice tight, almost cracking. We need to talk. I stepped aside, letting him in. He dripped onto my floor, pacing like a caged animal. You screwed me, he snapped, spinning to face me. Larson Ellen said you're the only one they'll deal with. What did you do? I didn't do anything, I said calmly, crossing my arms. You fired me, you lost Larson, that's on you. Bullshit, he shouted, his face red. You planned this, you and that damn contract clause, page 17A. I found it, Maya. You set me up. I didn't flinch. I negotiated that clause 4 years ago. It's not my fault you didn't read it before you canned me. He laughed, a jagged, frantic sound. Oh, you're good, real good, but I'm not done. I've got lawyers, top tier. They'll shred that clause, say it's unenforceable. Larson's coming back. Try it, I said, my voice ice cold. Ellen's legal team's better. You'll waste a fortune and still lose? He stopped pacing, staring at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Why? Why tank the company? You worked there too. You tanked it, I shot back, stepping closer. 13 years, Brandon, I built that place. You threw me out like trash. Did you think I'd just disappear? He opened his mouth, then shut it, his jaw tight. For a second, I thought he'd swing at me. His hands were balled into fists, but he just turned and stormed to the door. This isn't over, he growled, yanking it open. You'll regret this. Keep telling yourself that, I said as he slammed it shut. I stood there, heart pounding, adrenaline surging. He was rattled, unhinged even. But he wasn't wrong about one thing. This wasn't over. He'd fight dirty now, and I had to be ready. An hour later, Greg from Pinnacle emailed back. Terms look good. Let's talk tomorrow, screw Hargrove. Sarah from Grayson left a voicemail. Maya, call me. I'm hearing things. We need to meet. Jamal texted, calls on. You've got my attention. 3 dominoes tipping my way. Brandon's emergency board meeting would buy him time, maybe a loan, maybe a pep talk, but it wouldn't save him. Not when his clients started walking. That night, I got another email from Voss. Heard Brandon showed up at your place. He's losing it. My offer stands. Let's talk. I didn't reply. Voss was a vulture circling the wreckage. I didn't trust him, but I didn't need to. I just needed him to keep Brandon distracted. I poured a glass of wine and sat by the window watching the city lights flicker through the dark. Brandon thought he could intimidate me. He thought he could win. He was wrong. I'd built Hargrove once. Now I'd build something better, and I'd do it on his ashes. Brandon's visit lit a fire under me. He wasn't just desperate, he was dangerous, and I couldn't afford to underestimate him. Lawyers, he'd said, top tier. Maybe a bluff, maybe not. Either way, I had to move fast. Lock in my wins before he found a loophole or bullied someone into flipping. The next morning, I hit the ground running. First call, Greg Torres from Pinnacle Tech. He was all in, signed the contract I'd sent, faxed it back by 9 a.m., $4 million a year secured. Brandon's a punk, he said over the phone, his voice gruff with satisfaction, and he emailed me some discount pitch last night like, I'm a damn bargain hunter. You're my girl, Maya, always have been. Thanks, Greg, I said, grinning. I'll deliver, you know that. Damn right, drinks on me when this settles. Next up, Sarah Klein from Grayson Retail. She'd been cagey yesterday, but her voicemail had a sharp edge like she'd heard something that spooked her. I called her back and she picked up on the first ring. Maya, she said, her tone clipped. Good, I've been waiting. What's going on with Hargrove? I got a call from some consultant Vifu saying they're restructuring. Sounded like a panic move. It is, I said, keeping my voice steady. Brandon lost Larson $20 million down the drain. He's scrambling and Voss is just blowing smoke. I'm out, Sarah, independent now. Took Larson with me and I'm offering you the same deal stability. No, Kay? She paused, and I could hear her tapping a pen on her desk, a nervous tick I'd noticed in meetings. I heard about Larson. $6 million's a lot to risk on a kid who can't find his ass with both hands. What's your rate? Same as Hargrove's, but I'll throw in a quarterly review, no extra charge. You'll get me, not some frat boy intern. Sold, she said, decisive. Send the papers. I'm done with this circus. By noon, Grayson was locked in $6 million more. Jamal from Meridian Logistics took longer. He grilled me for an hour on logistics. Ironic given his business. But by 2 p.m., he signed too. 3 million in less than 6 hours. I'd pulled 13 million out from under Brandon's feet. Add Larson, and I was sitting on 33 million in annual contracts, more than half of Hargrove's client revenue, all mine. But I didn't stop to celebrate. Brandon's board meeting had happened last night, and Lila's next text confirmed my suspicions. Board gave him a lifeline $10 loan to stabilize. He's pitching new clients to replace Larson. Voss is still in his ear. Staff's mutinous Sam says morale's tanked. 10 million wouldn't save him, not with me bleeding his base dry. New clients, good luck. He'd burned too many bridges, and the industry was small, word spread fast. Still, I needed to know his next move. I called Sam Carter. Maya, he answered, sounding tired. You're killing it out there, huh? Trying to, I said. What's the mood like? Grim. Brandon's holed up with Voss, screaming about lawsuits. Board's pissed, gave him cash, but no confidence. He's got a pitch tomorrow, some biotech startup. Thinks it's his big win. Biotech? I frowned. He's got no experience there. Exactly. Voss is driving it, says it's future-proof. Everyone else thinks he's nuts. Keep me posted, Sam. And you okay staying? He sighed. For now, but I'm dusting off my resume. We hung up and I sat back, piecing it together. Biotech was a long shot, high risk, slow payoff. Brandon was grasping at straws and Voss was fighting his delusions. Perfect. That afternoon, Voss emailed again. Maya, Brandon's crashing, board's on him, clients are bailing, I'm out if you're in, pitch sent, let's move. I didn't reply. He was a rat abandoning ship, but I didn't need him, not yet, maybe not ever. Then at 5 p.m. my phone rang, an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Maya Kendrick, a woman's voice, smooth and clipped. This is Claudia Pierce, Hargrove board member. We need to meet. My pulse spiked. Claudia was Richard's old protégée, sharp, ruthless, the only woman on the board. She'd liked me back in the day. Claudia, I said, keeping my tone neutral. Been a while, what's this about? Brandon, she said flatly. He's tanking us. Larson's gone, Pinnacle's out, Grayson's wavering, we're hemorrhaging, and he's got no plan. I want to know what you're doing. Surviving, I said. He fired me, I'm freelancing, took Larson, a few others, that's it? Bullshit, she said, but there was a smile in it. You're gutting him, and I'm not mad about it. Meet me tomorrow, 8 a.m., my office, we'll talk. Fine, I said, see you then. She hung up, and I stared at the phone, my mind racing. The board was cracking. Claudia reaching out meant they were desperate. Did they want me back? Or just intel to save themselves? Either way, it was leverage. The next morning, I walked into Claudia's office downtown. Sleek, modern, all glass and steel. She stood by the window, 60-something but sharp as ever, her silver hair pulled into a tight chignon. She didn't waste time. Sit, she said, gesturing to a chair. You've been busy. Had to be, I replied, sitting. Brandon left me no choice. She nodded, her eyes piercing. He's a disaster. Richard's rolling in his grave. That loan won't hold us. Clients are jumping ship faster than we can count. You've got Larson, Pinnacle, Grayson, Meridian in. What else? That's my business, I said coolly. Why am I here? Because we're bleeding, she said, leaning forward. And you're the only one who can stop it. Come back, Maya, VP again or higher. Name your price. We'll fire Brandon, install you, Voss too, if you want him. I stared at her, the offer hanging heavy. Part of me, the part that had loved Hargrove, that had thrived under Richard, wanted to say yes. But then I remembered Brandon's sneer, the severance envelope, the years I'd given for nothing. No, I wasn't their savior. I was their reckoning. I'm done with Hargrove, I said, standing. You want to fix this? Fire Brandon yourself, but I'm not coming back. I've got my own thing now, and it's growing. Claudia's jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. Your funeral, or his, we'll see. I walked out, my heart pounding, but my resolve firm. Hargrove wasn't mine to save, it was mine to bury. That afternoon, Sam texted, biotech pitch flopped, startup laughed him out, board's calling another meeting, Claudia's pushing to oust him. It's over. I smiled, pouring a glass of wine. Brandon was done. The board might limp on, but without clients, without cash, Hargrove was a shell. And I had 33 million in contracts, a growing roster, and a clean slate. Voss called an hour later, voice frantic. Maya, he's out. Board's voting tonight. Claudia's taking over. I'm done with them. You in or not? Send me your pitch again, I said, sipping my wine. Better this time. I'll think about it. I hung up, leaning back. The game was mine. Brandon's empire was dust, and I was just getting started. The board's vote came down that night. Sam texted me at 10 p.m. It's official, Brandon's out. Claudia's interim CEO. Voss bailed too. Place is a ghost town. I read it twice, letting the words sink in. 13 years of my life reduced to a single text. Brandon was gone, stripped of his throne, his arrogance finally catching up to him. Hargrove wasn't dead yet, but it was on life support, and I had pulled the plug on its heart. I didn't reply to Sam right away. Instead, I opened my laptop and checked my inbox. Proposals from Pinnacle, Grayson, and Meridian were locked in, contracts signed and filed. Ellen had emailed too. Larson's thrilled. You're a machine, Maya. Next renewal's yours. Name your price. $33 million a year and growing. I'd built something new, something mine in less than a week. The weight of it, pride, power, a quiet thrill settled over me like a second skin. Voss called again at 11 p.m., his voice a mix of desperation and bravado. Maya, you see the news? Brandon's toast. Claudia's in, but she's got nothing. Clients are gone. Staff's quitting. I'm free. Pitch is ready better this time. We can do this, you and me. I let him ramble, sipping my wine as the city lights glittered outside. When he finally paused, I said, Derek, you're a survivor. I'll give you that. But I don't need a partner. I need a contractor. Send me your rates, not a pitch. Take it or leave it. He hesitated, then laughed, a forced, nervous sound. Hardball, huh? Fine, you'll have it tomorrow. Good, I said and hung up. Voss wasn't my equal. He was a tool. If he delivered, I'd use him. If he didn't, I'd cut him loose. Simple. The next morning, I met Sam for coffee. He'd asked to see me, and I owed him that much. We sat in a quiet diner near my place, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and too strong coffee. He looked older than I remembered, gray creeping into his beard, lines deeper around his eyes. You did it, he said, stirring sugar into his cup. Brandon's gone. Hargrove's a mess. Claudia's trying, but it's too late. Not my problem anymore, I said, leaning back. You sticking around? Nah. He shook his head. Put in my notice this morning. 15 years, Maya. I'm done. Come work with me, I said, the offer slipping out before I'd fully thought it through, but it felt right. I've got Larson, Pinnacle, Grayson, Meridian, more coming. I need someone I trust. His eyebrows shot up. You serious? Dead serious. Same pay, better hours. You in? He grinned, the first real smile I'd seen from him in months. Hell yes, when do I start? Monday, I said. We'll figure it out. We clinked mugs, sealing it. Sam was my first hire again, a full circle, but on my terms this time. That afternoon, Claudia called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Maya, she said, her voice tight, you win. Hargrove's done clients are gone. Loans barely covering payroll. I'm stepping down. Liquidation's next. Sorry to hear that, I lied, keeping my tone neutral. You tried? Not hard enough, she said, bitter. Brandon killed us, but you finished it. What's your end game? Survival, I said. I told you I'm building my own thing. Hargrove's just collateral. She laughed, a dry, hollow sound. Richard would have loved this. You're his real legacy, not that brat. Good luck, Maya. You'll need it. She hung up and I sat there, her words echoing. Richard's legacy. Maybe she was right. He'd seen something in me, grit maybe, or just stubbornness, and I'd carried it further than he ever could have dreamed. Hargrove was dead, but I wasn't. By evening, the news hit online. Hargrove and Associates files for bankruptcy after CEO ouster. I skimmed the article. Brandon's name splashed across it, a photo of him storming out of the office, head down. No mention of me. Perfect. I didn't need the spotlight. I needed the power. Lila called an hour later, her voice buzzing with excitement. Maya, you see it? They're gone. Brandon's toast. Voss is scrambling. You're a legend. Not yet, I said, smiling. Just getting started. Drinks tomorrow? On you, she said, laughing. I'm proud of you, girl. We hung up and I walked to my window, glass in hand. The city stretched out below, a maze of lights and shadows. Hargrove was ashes now, a memory. Brandon was a cautionary tale, arrogance undone by ignorance. Voss would claw his way back, maybe even work for me if he played nice. Claudia would fade, the board too, but me? I was rising. The next week I rented an office small, downtown, just enough for me, Sam. And a few hires I had in mind. Voss sent his rates steep, but workable. I'd use him for grunt work, keep him at arm's length. My phone buzzed with new leads, clients spooked by Hargrove's fall, looking for a lifeline. I'd take them one by one and build something stronger than Richard ever did. A month later, I saw Brandon's name in the news again. Ex-CEO sells family estate, moves to Miami. No mention of a job, a plan, just a kid running from his mess. I didn't feel sorry for him. He'd made his choice. So had I. That night, I sat in my new office alone, a bottle of bourbon on the desk. I poured a glass, raised it to the empty room. To loyalty, I said softly, and to those who forget it. I drank, the burn sharp and sweet. Hargrove was gone, Maya Kendrick was here, and this was just the beginning.